Hey everybody, it's your girl Bunny. To all of my returning subscribers, hey, how you doing? And for those of you who are new to the channel, welcome. Kick your feet up, subscribe to this family-friendly channel, and don't forget to click the notification bell so you don't miss any posts. Also follow me on Instagram at the same profile name so you don't miss the sneak peeks of what's coming up next. In this video, Iyanla, Fix My Life, Dirty Laundry and Unfinished Business. I give a full episode recap with photos offset to the side, and then I give my review at the end. No need to dig around. I have all of the minute marks in the comments. It's all coming up next. Iyanla narrates, sacred scriptures make it clear that a house divided against itself cannot stand. When we last saw the Giles family, the king was on the throne and the queen had a conflicted heart. Our work now is to close the gaps and bring the house upright, to bring clarity, oneness, and wholeness to the divided hearts in this family. The Giles family returns because they feel they have some unresolved issues to discuss. Iyanla notices that after all of the work from the family and everything put in, the house was still divided. There were still things on people's hearts and minds, and the family agrees. Iyanla shows them a diagram of a broken heart, a home divided with all of their names. Ashley expresses that her own sisters, Shanae and Janae, got along after the show, but after it was short-lived. Shanae and Janae, the twins, are the oldest, and then next in line is Ashley. Each piece of the heart has a person's name on it, and on the back are words expressed by each person. She hands Ashley her piece first, and it reads, Black sheep, forgotten, ignored, lonely, motherless, and fatherless child. All of the words are based on what Ashley has said in the past. That is her unfinished business, and Iyanla wants to address it. Jamil's piece reads, codependency, no independent self, I don't know what to think, I don't know what I want, indecisive, trapped. Iyanla calls her out because of the homework they did not do after the last episode, which was her expressing to her husband what she wanted to work on. She wanted couples counseling, individual therapy, and for her husband to stop yelling at her and to decide how they would run the house together. She admits instead of following through, she was comfortable with keeping things the way that they were. In her production clip, she recalls how indecisive she is and how she doesn't follow through with things. That comes from her really not knowing who she is in life. Jordan's card reads, Wounded Prince, Triggers, and Here for a Check. There's playback footage of Jordan expressing that the real reason why he showed up last time was because of a check. We get to Marc's piece, and it reveals Uncrowned King, father in crisis, unhappy, no sense of purpose, and needs to be needed. Jaden reads Spoiled Princess, Truth Teller, Magical Child, and Protected. She feels that Spoiled Princess is pretty accurate because she knows how to get what she wants. With Dorothy, we didn't get to speak with her much in the last episode, but in this session, Iyanla has time. Hers reads Untold Story, Favoritism, No Filter, Detachment, and Can't Tell Marc Anything. Marc disagrees that she feels that she can't tell him anything because she would always tell him about what she wanted, even with her adult problems. He says that as a child, hearing she can't pay the rent all the time made him feel like he had to do something. And as soon as he could, he took care of things and he took care of the house, making him feel like the king of the household. Iyanla wants Dorothy to clarify what she means and how she feels that she can't tell him what to do or say in present time. She gives an example of that when he got married, Jamil was not friendly and behaved as if she didn't want to get to know the family. Marc is upset that she said that because, wow, it's been 18 going on 19 years I've been with my wife and she's still talking about this. In his life, he wasn't crazy about the men she dated or the man she married either, but he respected it. Iyanla says, I get it. You wanted her to do what you did. Consider this. You set her up. You are like a roaring lion, thrashing about in space. And when you come into a room, everyone is mashed against the wall. Marc feels that he's just the product of how he grew up. He's not his father, he didn't abandon anyone, and he showed up. But Iyanla wants him to answer one question. Was your mother there for you? He says yes when I was younger, but after a while, she abandoned me for somebody else, for her man. Iyanla applauds his honesty and observes that Jordan is completely shut down emotionally. He has no idea about the depths of problems that exist, the same way Dorothy didn't notice the depth of problems that were in her son growing up. Iyanla is super concerned about Marc Jr. as well. Before Marc got married, Marc Sr. was raising him and Ashley as a single parent. Marc writes into the show, "This family is full of drunks. I'm damaged by my father, and his uncontrollable anger had me have uncontrollable anger, so much so that it made me just walk away." Recognizing he left behind his younger brother and sister. Marc confirms a lot of people in his family are functioning alcoholics. The first assignment is for everyone to review the contents on the back of the heart piece so they can discuss further. And Dorothy will stay behind to speak with Iyanla, grandma to grandma. Miss Dorothy, I know that it's a lot to ingest because you're the Queen Mother, but we've got to examine your story. Although before we do that, you've got to tell me about that comment you made about Jaden the last time that you were here. There's playback footage of Jaden asking why she doesn't like her, and Dorothy saying that she loves all of her grandkids, but she doesn't like all of them, and Jaden being one of them. Dorothy explains that Jaden is like the mother. She's like Jamil, and she just thinks that she knows everything. But I just, after the show, I tried to apologize to her on the way home, but I don't think she'll accept my apology. She's not talking to me. Her mother has a lot of influence on her. Since Jamil got issues with me, she has the same energy. When Marc introduced me to her, it was just that same energy. Next thing I know, they were getting married. Iyanla says, it sounds to me like he thought he was your man. He said, my mother abandoned me to be with her man, and now she wants to tell me who I can be with. We need to talk about that because as a mother, the main mistakes we make with our sons is to make our sons the emotional husbands. There's no male role models, and he put together what he thought in his mind was the definition of a protector. There's a breakdown between the women also in the family. I consider you to be the top of the line. If you put your foot down and you use your voice, you can straighten out a lot of this. Dorothy admits that she needs help with that. Iyanla wants her to understand that the first thing is making peace with Jamil. Dorothy breaks down in tears, hearing the words Queen Mother, hearing that reference. She says, wow, you really opened my eyes to that. I never thought about it that way. Queen Mother. That can help me be a better mom, a better grandmother, and even a better mother-in-law. I'm so sorry. I wish I had better knowledge on everything, had better guidance, that mother in my life, to be that kind mother that I probably could be. Iyanla says it's okay. You didn't know, and it's okay. The good news is that when you're the Queen Mother, when you say you're sorry, everyone has to forgive you, and they share a quick laugh. This is Queen Mother medicine. This is how you get it done, by saying, how can I make it better now? So start your work, and as I work with them throughout the day, I will pull you into things and pull you to the side to hear and see everything that I see. Just be a fly on the wall because I need you to have certain information. Iyanla is about to speak to Marc Jr. while Dorothy hears and sees everything in another room. There's a narration. How do you mend a broken heart? For this family, the deepest dark part needs to mend, and its break lies with little Marc, Marc's eldest son. Well, Marc, your name has come up a lot. What do you remember about how you grew up? He explains how he spent the first years of his life until about 6 years old with his mother. His mom went through a lot of fighting with addiction. After that, he moved to D.C., Maryland with his grandmother and his dad. He felt he didn't want Jamil to marry his dad because who are you coming in new into his life? I remember one day I came home and my dad said, "Did you speak to Jamil when you walked in?" I said no, and he smacked me in my face, pulled me down some steps and told me to speak to her next time I walked into the house. This brings Dorothy to tears hearing such a story. After that, Lil Marc says everything following was physical. It was physical and everything continued to be that way. A lot of my anger comes from everything bottled up about him. I can't speak up for myself and I can't speak with him. Not just about me, but about his drinking too. And Iyanla says, interesting information. What's interesting, Marc, is that as the big brother, you letting your younger siblings go. You walked away the same way that your father did. If you left because of you need to tell Jordan and Jaden that piece. Iyanla goes to get Dorothy because she needs her to be Queen Mother. You need to hear this. He loves you, and I'm about to put you in my chair. You can do it. Dorothy goes into the room and says, "Hi, grandson. I'm happy to see you. You look good, and I love you." And he says the same thing in return. And Iyanla laughs in the background and says, "I told him he was a cute thing." Dorothy lets him know that we all have work to do and we all can work together as a family because the problems just aren't going to go away. Lil Marc is happy to see his grandmother and very thankful. Iyanla wants Marc to speak with his siblings as well. Jordan says that he misses his brother and would follow him everywhere growing up. Iyanla wants everyone to get a clean understanding of why Lil Marc left. Jaden still hasn't expressed her anger with Marc about leaving, but she wants to get some things off of her chest. There's a call that continues and Lil Marc tells them the same information that he told Iyanla, that he left all due to the consistent fighting between him and his dad, and it had nothing to do with them. Jordan admits that him and his dad have had fights, but it didn't excuse him from leaving. Iyanla notices that Jaden is sucking his teeth and rolling his eyes, full of anger. Lil Marc has never answered his phone and has been that way ever since he left. Ashley points out that Jordan and Jaden keep saying he left us, but nobody is hearing why he left. No one is holding the parents accountable for why they allowed that to happen to Lil Marc in the first place and why he even feels that way. Y'all wanted him to stay, but he would have been miserable. Ashley gets so upset that she gets up and leaves the room. Iyanla wants Lil Marc to speak to Jordan, but now Jordan is too upset, speaks very harsh language, and leaves the room. Ashley tries to get Jordan to come back, but he's too angry, so much so that he breaks past production through the mansion gates to leave. Now Ashley is following him outside the production grounds, trying to get him to listen. Iyanla is very upset that he's not acting his age and that he listens to no one. She's saying, "My son is 50 years old and he still listens to me. Jordan is 17 years old and he's behaving like he's a 7-year-old. But he's not my problem. He's not mine. It's up to y'all to chase him all around." Now Jamil is taking off her shoes so she can go look for Jordan. Marc is confused about what's going on and wants to know what happened. His mother fills him in about the harsh language. He's just very upset that Jordan has took it there. Meanwhile, Marc is still on the line and Iyanla explains that they didn't even consider why you left the situation and not even thinking about why your dad has a part in it. It's not something that they've learned. They don't know how to be considerate. Production confirms that they found Jordan and bring him back to the production mansion. Iyanla wants Marc to understand that Jordan and Jaden hold Marc accountable for doing what he did. He thought it was best keeping himself away from you. Little Marc can't understand why the other kids got more love than him. Was it because he didn't want him in the first place? He feels like he couldn't do anything right in his father's eyes. And Marc says, no, it's not you. It's all me. Everything I did was all I knew. You reminded me of that age, 15, 16, 17 years old. And I didn't have a childhood, no father. But my mom put things on me to make me a man sooner than I wanted. Jaden and Dorothy eventually come down in the room and listen. Iyanla wants Dorothy to confirm that she didn't tell Marc to be a man, but she allowed it, and Dorothy confirms. Marc continues, I realized as I got older that everything that I did to hurt you was wrong. I don't love one child more than the other. I just wasn't trying to do the same thing over and over again, and I wanted to do better. It's a tough night, but Marc feels better that he was able to speak with his dad. He says that he loves him, respects the process, and that hopefully everything will get better. We're not perfect, no one is. And Iyanla says, well, y'all are not the perfect family, but y'all sure do run fast, which brings some much needed laughter to the room. It's the next day, and Iyanla wants to speak with Jordan. Iyanla says, now, Jordan, it was a rough day yesterday. I remember you saying you were only here to get a check, but I don't really believe that. When I hear you say, I don't care, what I hear is it's too painful to talk about, it's not safe to talk about, or I'm not going to talk about it because. And Jordan says, well, I'm not going to talk about it because I don't care. Iyanla says, no, I don't care is code wording psychologically. This is what I want you to know. I'm here for you because I get a sense that no one has been there for you. Does that make sense to you? Yes. So I want to be there in a different way because you cannot continue this way. Because I see everything coming down the line. Your dad, I don't care. Do what I say. No one can tell me nothing. Now to your brother. He doesn't care. And it's just the beginning. And I don't think you want to be like that. You'll be like that unless you don't get the tools you need. You think you have all of the tools now, but you don't. When you got up and you said certain things, it displayed a level of self-control that you don't have. Here's your family's pattern, and everybody's got it. Abandonment, neglect, division, defensiveness, deprivation. You've been abandoned physically and emotionally with the neglect. That creates the division. Everybody goes through their separation back to their own little separate areas. That was done to you. And that's the result of deprivation. You all have been deprived of love. I hear you say, I love you, but this is not love. Are you willing to have a conversation with me off camera, no mics? He says yes. She says, I have two requirements: that you don't lie to me and that you are willing to do it different. They take the mics off and the cameras go away. Iyanla narrates, Mr. Jordan is so shut down. I sense that by speaking with him off camera, he will come to realize that trust and vulnerability are not weaknesses, but necessarily signs of strength. The shift in Jordan may not happen until there is a shift in his parents' behavior. Mr. Marc is next on my list. Now Iyanla speaks with Marc while Dorothy listens and watches in another room. Marc, the level of violence in your family is a concern to me. And he says, yes. Last night gave me a lot to think about, especially my own upbringing. I was 14 and someone had burglarized my mom's house. And when I got the opportunity to get revenge, I got it. I hit him upside the head and I got sent to a reform school. When I was 17, I got jumped by some guys in the neighborhood. And then I got a chance to get him back. And I got charges for felonious assault. I got a chance because I got that charge because I sliced one of the guy's head open. And at 17, I went away again. What I saw Jordan and Jaden do yesterday to Marc Jr. was violence. Mr. Marc is you at 14. Just pin that as a topic because I'm trying to get to the cause of everything. Tell me what you heard growing up. And he explains that he heard and saw violence between his mom and the boyfriends. A lot of it was verbal, some was physical, but mostly of it was verbal. And I would hustle, sell weed, do what I needed to do to take care of things at home. And I gave that money to my mama. Iyanla tells him, so listen. So it evolved to you being the husband, not her son. So when you announced that you were getting married, that made Jamil the other woman. I don't think your mom really understands that. How did you respond to your mother leaving you? Well, I cursed her out about it. At this time, I'm living with my grandparents who didn't live in the projects. I was about 18 years old. Okay, so your mother told me she didn't even tell you. She neglected to tell you that she was even leaving in the first place. He says, yeah, I was very resentful. And I said to her, how in the world could you leave me and I never left you? And Iyanla says, yeah, that's a husband-wife dynamic. Here, go in the corner if you need to cry. It's time to just let it all out. You need to speak it. How could you ever leave me? What did you have to provide? And he says, I lied, I stole, I cheated. And Iyanla is encouraging him to get it out. Yes, you lowered your integrity. You have to speak it. He says, yeah, I'm mad about that. To realize that I did what I did thinking it was helping and it didn't. It bothers me. She says, you weren't taught about your manhood. It's not your fault, but it's your problem. You made it up in your head what you thought you needed to be. Now I need you to go get Queen Mother. Dorothy, hearing everything, makes her feel bad for all of the choices that she made, not really raising him. And Iyanla says, you weren't raised either, Miss Dorothy. Remember that everything that you need to say must be said so we can level out the playing field and do something different. Next to talk to is Miss Ashley. Iyanla narrates, I remember her sadness, the longing for her mommy and daddy. But as a woman with daughters of her own, it's time for her to realize that broken mothers will only create more broken children. Ashley explains that, wow, I couldn't grasp why they didn't understand what Marc was saying. He was apologizing. He was expressing things to my younger siblings, and they're yelling, but you left me. It was just too much. I know what Marc went through because we went through it together. It just comes to a point when you just start asking yourself, when will we be open to forgiveness? What are we here for? She says, yes, Miss Ashley, you all have been abandoned. And that's where Jordan and Jaden broke my heart. They left Marc hanging out there with his heart hanging. That's happened to all of you in one way or another. You put yourself to be vulnerable. And then when you do that, you feel abandoned or neglected. And then you become defensive. That's why I did this. Iyanla displays another exercise. And she spins the display and it lands on black sheep. Yeah, I'm the black sheep. I stay back all the time because it's from me being abandoned. My mom would leave us alone for 2 weeks at a time. We wouldn't have food. We were about 6 or 7 years old. We would go steal food. I know some people probably thinking, y'all are so angry. Why aren't you mad at your mom? I was for a very long time. But even with her being on drugs, it was just we always had love for her. She apologized a lot. And in those moments, I realized and I really thought she was sorry. But Iyanla explains to her, do you realize the absolute insanity of a drug-addicted mother trying to love her children with love that she doesn't have for herself. All of you have a distorted image of love due to love deprivation. Your love cup is empty. The next spin lands on motherless and fatherless child. And Ashley continues, I feel like that. I feel like I didn't have either. And Iyanla says you didn't. You didn't have either one. Did anyone else in the family mother you? I mean, you weren't mothered. Who protected you? Who provided for you? How does it show up in your day-to-day life? And Ashley explains that she has 3 girls at home, and I'm very overprotective. I mean, me and my oldest child, my daughter, we don't see eye to eye most of the time because I keep her around. She's 16. When they were younger, I didn't let them go over other people's houses, parties. I always kept them with me because I didn't want them to feel like I abandoned them or I wasn't around, and she even ran away once. And Ashley breaks down into tears. And Iyanla wants her to let it out and let it come up. And she continues, she doesn't listen, she's fighting, she goes to places and I don't know where she is. And Iyanla's like, yes, the family traits, the same thing over and over again. That's your brother, that's your dad, that's your sister, it's everyone. Once you shift everything, you will shift. You're raising 3 girls. That's 3 wives and 3 mothers. I'm depending on you to make that shift, to change that pattern. Your pain and your brokenness says that it's not going to work, but I need you to make a commitment starting today, and you can. You're all I got in all of this, Ashley, and I need your help. I need Jamil to believe this is how she feels. I need her to be in her body, and I want you to witness the work. You all will see the healing, but you also get healing from it as well. You're powerful, and I need you to know it. Jamil tries to explain to Iyanla that everything that happened yesterday with Jordan, she taught Jordan to remove himself from situations when he's upset so there's not an explosion. But Iyanla tells her the unfortunate news that the explosion happened before he walked away. And it was after he said some very vulgar things as well. Miss Jamil, in your relationship between Mr. Marc and Miss Dorothy, you are the other woman. And she says, yes, on my wedding day, she told me that if he wasn't my son, that I would marry him. As I got older, it made more sense to me. But I had in my mind that from that day, I knew I would have to deal and fight with this woman. Like, wow, am I going to have to deal with this for the rest of my life? Because, wow, I took her man in her eyes. Yes, Jamil, that's why Dorothy can say out of her mouth to Jaden, I don't like you, because she sees the offspring from the other woman. That's the status of her mind, of how she saw it at the time. What's the status of your marriage right now? And Jamil feels that she doesn't have anything left to give. But Iyanla wants to support her in clearing the decks, so you can reclaim your voice. Would you be willing to do that? And she says, yes. I want you to take off your jewelry, your earrings, everything like that. But I want to have you go through a ceremony to help you reclaim your life. I'm going to go and get ready and see if the space is ready. And I just need you to get ready for everything. And Iyanla narrates. Miss Jamil is clearly exhausted and has been drained of her own inner authority and voice as a woman. I have asked the women in this family to witness a ceremony that will help rejuvenate Miss Jamil. Iyanla says, my concern for this family grows. Your father, the children, everybody. And the real concern is for Miss Jamil. I want you to witness the healing ceremony. It's conducted and it's for her, but you can receive healing from it as well. It's a healing ceremony conducted by women for women. It's called a baking ceremony, and I want you to be here. You might not know, but you'll receive healing as well. There is another narration. There comes a time when only women can help other women heal their heart. She's instructing them to put their feet on her. There's no thinking and no talking. She continues, supporting a sister A woman in the process. Today, I have asked a community of women from Fix My Life to bake Miss Jamil. All of the women are from all walks of life and have worn the shoes Miss Jamil is walking in. Their experience, support, and love will give her strength and hopefully clarity. Iyanla instructs them. When you inhale, I want you to pull up her energy, and when you exhale, I want you to push it up. And she continues, because women have a special connection, divine connection to Mother Earth. They can share healing energy through their feet. Now, just let her know your prayers for her, and one by one, they whisper their prayers for her. Once all of the women in the ceremony whisper their prayers, Queen Mother Dorothy says a prayer and gives her a kiss. Dorothy prays, "Thank you that you gave me my daughter-in-law. I'm sorry that I messed up. I do love her. I just didn't know." Dorothy breaks down into tears to Miss Iyanla and says she apologizes. And then she apologizes to Jaden and says, "I love you. I'm so sorry. I never meant to hurt you, and I apologize. I'll do whatever it takes to keep our family together and strong and loving one another." Iyanla then instructs Ashley and Jaden to sit down with Jamil until she's ready to get up, while Iyanla takes Miss Dorothy to another room. Miss Dorothy explains that she didn't have the courage to say certain things because she was afraid of her son's reaction. Now there's a needed connection between Dorothy and Marc, and they also need a conversation. She reminds Dorothy that she can hold everyone in her heart the same way she just did. And Jamil says she feels better. And Iyanla explains that they have broken the ties. And did you feel it? And she says that she did. Now she has to stop herself from doing the same thing over and over again, which takes work. Iyanla narrates, Miss Dorothy is stepping into her role as Queen Mother in the family by accepting Miss Jamil as Mr. Marc's queen, but now she needs to acknowledge that shift with her son. Mr. Marc, I want to paint a picture for you. A young man about 14, 15 years old, really frightened about the harshness around him. What do you want her to know about him? He explained from the moment that he was birthed and when he got older, he always felt like they were a team. It was just them against the world. And when you decided to go to Washington, D.C., you just kind of left. And when I came to D.C., you and your now husband, Jimmy, got another house and said I couldn't come. I had to sleep in my car, but you went off with this Negro. And you told me, your baby, I couldn't come. You hurt me so bad when you told me one Christmas that I got my kids too much, and that stuck out to me and it hurt me and it just stuck me in the heart. What do you mean I gave them too much? And I'm just remembering not having anything and remembering when you weren't there for Christmas. And Iyanla reminds him to just breathe and not roar at her, but just talk. He says, I remember my mom getting stuff for my cousins, toys and putting stuff together, but just she got nothing for me. When I got married to Jamil, you didn't even have to love her, but just, respect her or something. I just feel like you thought she was taking your place. It's like you basically said it. When I told you I was getting married, you cried, and that hurt me, and they weren't happy tears. And Dorothy admits that I didn't want you to marry her. That was true. She was outgoing. She was smart. And I guess I was jealous. I feel bad because of the ways I didn't treat her. How I didn't know how to go over to her. I mean, she didn't speak to me. And you were just so respectful when you were growing up. You put me on this pedestal and I was so proud of you. Not because of what you could do for me, but because you were my son. I did my best with what I knew. And if I had known better, I would have done better. But now we're at this place now, and everybody's here just trying to fix it. Marc is happy that they're learning the tools that they need because now they've gotten to a point where all of this pain is finally coming out. And it's something that all of them need to continue doing. Iyanla says, it was inappropriate, the relationship that you two had in the beginning. And Marc, you didn't integrate Jamil into the family well. And that has to shift. They hug and they tell each other that they love one another. Iyanla narrates, how do you mend a broken heart? A heart divided by abandonment, neglect, deprivation, and a home where violence, alcohol, and the fear of telling the truth has resulted in no communication and division. When the people have the tools and are willing to use them, to listen without judgment, to hear without attacking, to speak mindfully with compassion, home becomes a place where questions and answers create love and deepen the connection. Today is a day of question, answers, and hopefully the end of a long-standing division. Iyanla sits down with Ashley and Jaden. She wants Jaden to express how she interprets Marc's suffering. She feels for him and knows that her brother means well, but you can kind of tell that she's abrasive to everything concerning his feelings and why he left. Ashley says, when he left, it was to protect himself and Daddy because he was at the point where he wanted to get rid of Daddy. You don't know, but he blamed me and Jordan for it. Someone else told me that. He feels like you left him too. Like how we leave each other, how we feel that way. You've been abandoned, I've been abandoned, you feel that way. We all feel that way. We all felt abandoned. Iyanla wants Jaden to understand that knowing what you know about your father and think about that and having no mother. Marc Jr. and Ashley, they didn't have a mother that was there, nowhere to go, no soft place to fall. So what can you do today to help Marc Jr. and his suffering? And she says, well, I guess I can tell him that I understand and that I'll be there for him. And Iyanla says, yes, what you're doing, what you're saying, that's called compassion. When you left here, Miss Ashley, there was a conversation that I thought that you need to have with your dad. It's about the sisters, how they expressed being sexually assaulted. She told her dad, and she says that he expressed it was his fault for putting her in a situation where she felt like she couldn't come and talk to him. I told him everything, and he was very just hurt by everything that was happening and what it was. I remember everything. I remember where it was because most of the parties that we had were outside. I remember hearing my dad's voice and everybody outside partying and happiness, but I was pulled to the side to be molested. And I told my dad this. He said he apologized because Marc and I felt we couldn't come talk to him about anything. And my dad said, wow, like this entire time, you told me this story. I'm drinking and we partying, we having a good time. And this whole time you weren't even safe. I thought you were safe. But when he expressed that, it made me feel loved and it made me feel that I wasn't forgotten or ignored. Unfortunately, Jaden didn't talk to her dad about her unfortunate sexual abuse situation. The difference is the story is that her dad wasn't there, no one was around, and it happened at her grandmother's house. And my grandmother doesn't know. She used to call me fast, and I'm not going to tell somebody that something that happened to me and you're saying all that stuff about me, that I'm fast, And Iyanla says, that's old school. We were taught to blame ourselves. Oh, you fast, or you fast and you this and you that. That's how they talk to us. Give her the opportunity to go beyond that. I want us to have a ladies' meeting, and I'm going to go get your mom and your grandma. They come in and they sit down, and Jamil feels better now that she has a sense of purpose. And Dorothy did a lot and of soul searching, and she's reflecting on some of her behaviors, and she's just hurt that she said certain things to her granddaughter, certain things to her daughter-in-law. She feels bad. And Iyanla says, well, we can't minimize the way that the relationships are set up. And with Marc in the middle, how can we resolve that? And Jamil says, it's just the physical anger, the sadness that I have for Dorothy. It's just not there anymore. When she would walk into the room, my heart would race and my blood would boil. It just, that's how I felt. And now I don't feel that anymore. I feel that there is an opportunity for peace with everybody. Dorothy apologizes for what she said and the way that she behaved in the past. And she says that she's truly sorry. Jada says that she's at a place where she really doesn't know how she feels about her grandma. It's going to take her time to forgive her. And she feels like she has nothing else to give. Iyanla tells her that the way that you feel is fine. And if you could share some of the notes and situations that happen with your grandma that's bothering you. And she pulls out 3 different situations. She said one situation, Dorothy says something about my mom. And when I reported it to my mom, Dorothy called me all kinds of names and told me that I had a loose mouth. Another time, she would always come get Jordan, but never me. It made me feel unwanted. And then lastly, there was a time where I was posing in a picture for my cheerleading, and I was in my cheerleading uniform, and she said that I would be pregnant before the age of 15 or something like that, or 16, and say that I was just too fast. And Dorothy says, as a grandmother, I shouldn't have said that, and I'm so sorry. And Iyanla wants to know, what can she do to make it better? And she tells her, I don't know. I just need time. Iyanla wants everybody to understand that this is an important relationship. If it's a important relationship, then you have to be motivated to make it better. And you can't constantly replay things in the past in order to move forward. The critical breaks in the family, without a doubt, are Jordan and Marc Jr. Ashley says Marc Jr. is an alcoholic. I get phone calls all the time back home that, hey, come get your brother. He's drinking and he's out of control. People say that all the time. Iyanla thinks that his behaviors and actions is him having this cry out for help, wanting to be rescued. She feels that she can't fix it all, but she wants to give them the tools how to make things better. It's been too broken for too long. Iyanla narrates, piece by piece, a family's broken heart can be healed. But in order for the recovery process to be successful, it is important for everyone, the king and the queen, to have a moment to share with each other and commit to leading their family in a different way that leads them to total recovery and healing. Iyanla says this is going to sound bizarre, but you all are married. Can we hold up on trying to repair the marriage for right now and just work on the 2 individuals who are in the marriage? If you do that, I think everything in the marriage will take care of itself. Marc shares a private moment of his life that he told Iyanla about, but he wants to go further in detail to explain to Jamil. He goes on to explain that when he was 14 years old, someone burglarized their house, and when he found the guy, that he beat him almost to the last inches of his life. And Iyanla explains that's what gave him the attitude of authority by being violent. Even in his relationships, he would use, because I'm doing this in this way, you have to do what I say. When it went against what he wanted, he would get angry. He asked for Jamil's forgiveness. They hug. They tell one another that they love one another. And Jamil noticed that his brokenness years ago was behavior that she thought would get better, but it didn't. And Iyanla says, you notice that she needs to be more present. She needs to figure out who she is. And the main focus is helping Jordan. Jordan needs to be present, and Jordan needs to understand that he needs more guidance. And Iyanla points out that the mothers of his eldest kids were people that had issues with substance abuse, and to consider that maybe that they were in a place to be rescued, and you went towards that energy because you wanted them to be saved. The same thing for Jamil. She was an individual that really couldn't figure out who she was and stand in her oneness, and that led you to her to be saved, to try to save her. He has to learn how to listen and hear, and she has to learn how to speak and not bite. Don't think about the means and how y'all don't have certain things. I know you guys love one another, but if that's what brought y'all together, you can release those patterns and start new. And so what are we going to do about Marc Jr.? Marc Sr. talked to him last night, And he told him that he was proud of him and that he doesn't want him to make the same mistakes that he did as a younger person. Iyanla suggests that rehab and to have a conversation with Marc Jr. is very necessary, getting him a sponsor and to start going to meetings. And it's time to do things different. They call Marc Jr. and he wants to speak more with Jordan and Jaden to get back on the right track with the relationship. Marc apologizes for not being there for his younger siblings, and Jaden says that she loves him very much, but Jordan is not ready to speak to Marc Jr. just yet. Now Marc Sr. and Jamil take a moment to speak with him. That Marc has made a commitment to change. If he's made a commitment to change, then they want to express the truth and that they love him. Jamil joins the conversation and she says that we couldn't always give you what you needed. And more specifically, we ask you to forgive us and I need you to forgive me. So the same thing holds everyone accountable. We need to be accountable for ourselves. And I'm asking you to make the commitment to find a meeting and to get some help for your sobriety, staying sober. Lil Marc says, yes, ma'am, and it's something that he's looking forward to do. And Marc Jr. says that he's humbled himself and he needs to get help with the drinking. And I also got to stay committed. And Marc Sr. says, I have to do the same thing. It's something that I need to take accountability for. Iyanla shares that Marc Jr.'s piece of his heart, and it read willingness and forgiveness. She wants everyone to take the tools that are written on the back of the pieces with them. Shanae and Janae, their back of their hearts read nothing. It's up to the family to decide what they need. Jordan's piece of his heart have words that are tools to take with him as well, which reads humbleness and humility. Jaden's is humility and kindness. Ashley's is self-acceptance and courage. Jamil's is know thyself. Dorothy, loving and nurturing. Marc, vulnerability and willingness. Iyanla has her final narration. A broken heart is difficult but not impossible to repair. We cannot run away from the breaks, divisions that make us live in our hearts. Sometimes in order to heal, we must do the very thing that we try to avoid. Ask the hard questions, hear the hard truths, challenge the patterns and beliefs that feel safe and familiar, and allow ourselves to be vulnerable. A house divided against itself cannot stand until and unless the heart of that house is willing to be vulnerable and open to the possibility that healing can happen. Since this episode was 2 hours long and this recap is lengthy, I will leave my review comments in the pinned comment below. Hope you guys enjoyed this recap and my review. Until next time, take care of yourself and each other. Stay tuned for Ready to Love episodes. I have the link below, and also The Handmaid's Tale, which debuted today, April 28th, 2021. Until next time, take care of yourself and each other. Bye.